Around 5 kilometres beyond the city of Bharatpur is one of the most fascinating wildlife reserves on the Indian subcontinent, Keoladeo Ghana. Accompanied by the park's experienced guides, the first leg of our journey travels across a well-worn route to Python Point, that due to its population of tiger pythons, most assuredly lives up to its name.
This is the Indian rock python, Latin name Python molurus.
Although the reserve can be toured unaccompanied, most of those who come here prefer to take advantage of the expertise of a well-trained guide, especially as there are some pretty frightening looking snakes here. The search for the up to 5-metre long tiger python is a thrilling experience. The region's fauna leads to the entrance to Keoladeo Ghana, one of the most famous national parks in Rajasthan. Most visitors travel here from Bharatpur and enter the park from the North Gate that was named in honour of the Prince of Wales. Shortly after sunrise, the drivers of the bicycle rickshaws await their next passengers. It's still quite cool at this time of day, but soon the already scorching temperature begins to rise still further. Those who wish to enjoy the beauty of nature in all its splendour rise early when the fauna is at its most impressive.
This is the Vetiveria jejunus grass. The roots of this grass used to make a very good perfume.
Strictly speaking, Keoladeo Ghana is not a truly natural park. Its scenery was developed with the aid of man. Following the fundamental changes that led to the creation of this region as it is today, nature added its own particular type of magic. The narrow Ajahn Dam that leads to a monastery within the park originated in 1760 and was constructed on the orders of a maharaja. The small, frugal monastery of Keoladeo Ghana is not only of religious significance. It also serves as a hospital to various injured animals, such as deer, that are tended by monks until they have returned to full health. Close by, several animals are gathering. A peaceful scene. Both monkeys and deer are concentrating on their search for food. The monkey ensures that the deer doesn't steal any of its food. The Ajahn Dam was designed to protect the nearby city of Bharatpur, and thus the residents of the Maharaja from possible flooding caused by the monsoons. With the construction of the Ajahn Dam, an artificial reservoir was created that retains water throughout the year. In the course of time, an extensive area of swamps and water biotopes emerged that attracted a large number of bird life. At the beginning of the 20th century, further dams and sluices were built in order to control the water levels with greater efficiency. The artificial dam created its very own ecological system that transformed it into a whole new world of nature. The maharajas of Bharatpur showed little interest in the beauty of their surroundings. Despite the picturesque landscape, the local rulers were more interested in the region's wildlife, especially the population of wild duck. In the middle of the 19th century, the Maharajas recognized the merits of this newly created habitat and officially declared it to be their very own hunting grounds. Unlike today, the numerous water birds of Keoladeo Ghana were not protected, but instead were hunted for sport. Today, the sound of hunting parties no longer disturbs the natural scenery of this unique park. It is now a place of sublime tranquility. Although the exceptional biodiversity of the bird life is the reserve's main attraction, the vegetation is also most interesting. The park's varied scenery is quite remarkable. Low-lying forests, shrubberies, swampland, and savannah-like grasslands influence the external appearance of this fascinating nature reserve. In the northeast of the park, the dry forests consist mainly of the babul tree, a unique variety of acacia tree and rose apple. Most visitors come here for the exceptional biodiversity of the birds and are no longer armed with rifles, but with cameras and binoculars so as to witness the full splendor of the Keoladeo area. Photo safaris have become extremely popular since the founding of the national park, and the region provides an ideal environment for many rare species of bird. The nature reserve is full of life throughout the year. To take advantage of the park's mild winter months, many birds take up the annual challenge to fly several thousand kilometres to Keoladeo Ghana. The scenery has a special magnetism. However, the park is not without its problems, as in some sections the ecology has come under threat. Nutrients, as well as pesticides and minerals from nearby farmland, pose a danger to the local environment. Although the damage to the landscape is almost invisible, the park's wildlife is showing increasing signs of poisoning. However, everything is now being done to ensure the long-term future of the park and its inhabitants. Water dominates large areas of the park. Almost 1/3 of the 29 square kilometre reserve is wetland. Despite the growing popularity of Keoladeo Ghana and its increasing number of visitors, the park still has a large number of unspoiled natural areas. For many visitors, the remoteness of the park is in stark contrast to life in India's lively, noisy and hectic cities. However, this world-famous bird sanctuary is located close to civilization and also to a good network of roads. Motor vehicles are few and far between in Keoladeo Ghana. Here, the bicycle rickshaw is the most common means of transport. The increasing heat makes it necessary for the drivers to take a number of short breaks. During certain times of the day, the roads of the dam become quite crowded. In the middle of the park is a small temple from which the Keoladeo Ghana Nature Reserve derived its name. It has a mysterious and a desolate atmosphere. Close to the temple are several sandstone plaques that describe the official hunting trips of the maharajas and the details of the birds that were shot. The last inscription dates back to 1964, shortly after which the hunting rights of the maharajas finally came to an end. Traces of former hunting parties that also included various illustrious foreign guests can be seen in numerous sections of the wildlife reserve. Normally dilapidated buildings of one sort or another. Faced with such wonderful scenery, it's difficult to imagine that until a few years ago, several thousand birds were shot in just a single day.
This place used to be a hunting ground of the Bharatpur 100 years back. And the area was developed as a Dutch preserve by the late 19th century.
For a small fee, a guide can be booked at the entrance to the Keoladeo Park. It's a wise investment, as each guide is highly knowledgeable and knows each corner of this truly magnificent reserve.
And after independence of India, a large chunk of the land encroached upon by the local people.
The guides can provide innumerable facts about the park. Facts that would be almost impossible to obtain from any other source.
The government declared this area as a bird sanctuary.
The close proximity of agricultural land becomes increasingly obvious in the border regions of the park. Occasionally, small herds of cattle become lost in the reserve. However, they pose no danger to the park's fragile ecosystem. The further one advances into the nature reserve, the more impressive both the animal and bird life become. Since the hunting grounds of the maharajas was dissolved in 1972, Keoladeo Ghana has become a paradise for ornithologists. With each season of the year, the biodiversity of the park and the number of birds that it contains varies, as many of the birds are migratory. The park is popular throughout the year, and even those who are not keen ornithologists have much to keep them amused. The swampy landscape not only provides a habitat for numerous species of bird, it is also home to several mammals. The varied climate and topography of India is also reflected in the flora and fauna of this relatively small nature reserve. The winter months, normally from November to February, are when most visitors come to this famous bird sanctuary located outside Bharatpur. At this time, the Keoladeo Ghana Reserve is home to around 1 million birds, including many rare species. Yet this area provides both its indigenous and migratory birds with an abundance of nourishment in the shape of fruit, seeds, and most notably, fish. Over 370 species of bird have been recorded in the Keoladeo National Park. Such diversity is unique in India. The overwhelming variety of bird life here could not be more comprehensive. It ranges from huge, majestic pelicans to tiny zilzalps. And it's not only in the cool months, but also in the summer, between July and September, that there is much activity among the park's wildlife. With the much anticipated arrival of the first monsoons, a noticeable change begins to affect the local bird life. The long days of constant heat from March to June, with daytime temperatures of more than 40 degrees, finally comes to an end. The kingfisher also populates vast areas of the Keoladeo Ghana. One of the region's most conspicuous birds is the parrot. Rare cormorants, egrets and cranes also come to this protected habitat in the east of Rajasthan. Early in the morning, some of the larger birds extend their wings in spectacular fashion to dry out their plumage from the morning dew. The Keoladeo National Park is also a refuge for several endangered birds that would otherwise perish. Everywhere in the world, the natural habitats of many exceptional species of bird are growing increasingly small and even vanishing altogether. For the preservation of many species that would otherwise be in danger of extinction, this nature reserve represents the foundation of their survival. During the hottest months of spring, several birds begin to build their nests in the park's acacia trees. Nesting begins with the summer monsoons that normally arrive at the end of June, when many ornithologists visit the park. Apart from the winter months, when there are many exotic migratory birds, the monsoons are the best time to observe the various birds within the park. Birdwatchers have long been a good source of income in the region. Due to the rich abundance of fish and microfauna here, as well as the huge quantity of unique water plants, this is an ideal habitat for a great deal of wildlife. In addition to several rare mammals that graze here, there are several cattle that also inhabit the national park. Although the mammals are far outnumbered by the park's many exotic birds, it's worthwhile to spend some time observing them in their natural surroundings. Boat trips are a good way in which to enjoy the local scenery, and they're particularly popular with bird lovers. The boats travel to the more remote areas of the park, areas that would be impossible to visit using the park's bicycle rickshaws. The small boat travels almost silently, steered by a guide who is well versed in the artificial waterways of the wetlands. Following the monsoons, the water level of the various lakes rise and forms an even larger area. The waterways and dams that were once used by the maharajas, especially in the late 19th century, did not only serve as flood protection. With the end of the rainy season and the gradual decline of the water levels, the local birdlife vacated the area. Thus, the hunting fever of the maharajas was strongly dependent on the various seasons of the year. The former rulers of Bharatpur were not content with their dependency on nature. They reluctantly had to accept the natural cycles of the seasons. But by constructing new dams and canals, as well as more sophisticated irrigation systems, the maharajas were able to control nature. With the transformation of the swampland into numerous lakes, many water birds remained here, and thus the maharajas were able to hunt throughout the entire year. With the official inauguration of this national park in 1981, the great hunting parties were finally a thing of the past. But without the creation and maintenance of these former hunting grounds, the nature reserve of today would not exist. Thus, the maharajas of bygone times are an indelible part of this region's history. Today, those who visit the park do not pose a threat to the bird life, even though up to the middle of the 20th century, man destroyed countless numbers of birds here. Notwithstanding the mass destruction of the wildlife that once took place in this region, the Keoladeo Ghana Nature Park is now home to more than 370 species of bird. In the breeding season, the park's trees are full of life. Dozens of nests on a single tree are quite commonplace. A boat trip into this magical and picturesque world is an absolute must for all those who come to experience the splendor of Keoladeo Ghana. The painted stork is one of the most striking birds in the park. More than 2,000 were recently recorded here. The painted stork is known for its insatiable appetite. The park's storks consume around 5 tons of fish every day. Their breeding colonies are located at nesting sites that are always situated close to water, such as in the Keoladeo National Park. For the painted stork, mixed breeding communities with other species such as cormorants and heron are also quite common. Its breeding time is closely related to the climate. In particularly dry years, the painted Asian stork doesn't breed at all. Particularly fascinating is the fact that to protect themselves from predators, the various breeding colonies are located quite close to each other. It's quite amazing how both experience and instinct combine to create a protective shell from possible danger. If an attack is launched, the various inhabitants of the trees combine their strength in order to protect their nests and fend off predators. During the busy tourist season in the winter months, the atmospheric boat tours are extremely popular, and so it's important to book early. The park is not only popular with ornithologists and nature lovers in general, it also attracts a large spectrum of visitors from around the world. The former owners of the hunting grounds really used the waterways while travelling on the hunt. The maharajas of Bharatpur invested a large amount of money in the construction of several routes, many of which were large enough to take motor vehicles. For the rulers of that time, hunting was not only a sport and a hobby. The hunt was also important for both diplomatic and political life. Several British viceroys accepted the invitations of the maharajas with alacrity and created many records by shooting outrageous quantities of duck and geese. Indeed, in November 1938, the hunting party of Viceroy Lord Linlithgow shot 4,273 duck and geese in a single day. Lord Linlithgow had with him 2 loaders for his rifles, who also cooled them down with cold water when they became overheated due to repetitive firing. After India gained its independence, the attitude of the Indian people to the natural inhabitants of what is now this national park began to change. The nature reserve also contains a number of fascinating mammals, such as small predatory jackals and foxes. This mosaic of forests, grassland, shrubbery and lakes is an important and also a protected refuge for much wildlife. For those interested in nature, the Keoladeo National Park provides numerous ways of experiencing India's fascinating animal kingdom at close proximity. ideal habitat of this wonderful park is now leading to an increasing number of birds remaining within its confines. This reserve in the Ganges-Indus lowlands is also very important for one of the most rare migratory birds in the world, the famous Siberian crane. The Siberian crane travels well over 6,000 kilometres across both Afghanistan and Pakistan in order to winter at Keoladeo. But in recent years, the number of these rare cranes that come to winter here has severely declined. In 1994 and 1995, the Siberian crane did not come here at all. But shortly afterwards, 4 of them were recorded here. The total world population of these cranes is estimated to be at around 2,000. Keoladeo Ghana is one of their final retreats. Without this national park, India would not only lose a colourful tourist attraction, but also a priceless and unique natural habitat. As the sun gradually sets, the park is still not silent. For as many of its nocturnal inhabitants, the day has only just begun. Few bird sanctuaries in the world provide visitors with such a variety of biodiversity and scenic beauty as does the Keoladeo National Park.